It is a bit of a familiar setting this week on CNB as we come to you from Munich, and in fact more particularly the BMW WELT, which is right next to the BMW headquarters right here in Munich. We are here for a special reason. Now it's not just a new car. Promise you that we will show you a new car as well. But besides that, remember a few weeks ago we had our BMW contest. Our 3 lucky winners, besides getting a chance to attend the 3 Series launch and meet Sachin Tendulkar, also had the opportunity to come right here. Well, they are here now. Let's go and meet them. Now this 1972 BMW 316 is one of the many gems you find here at the headquarters, because right next to the headquarters is of course the museum. You've been there before with us, but it's a sort of a fitting spot to really begin our journey with our winners as well, because you see cars like this in mint condition here. Hi guys.
Hi Siddharth, you okay?
I'm great, how are you?
Fine, doing great.
Welcome to Munich, and welcome to the BMW headquarters.
Thank you.
Very fitting to see a car like this standing outside in some senses, because you know, it sort of represents everything that the brand is all about. Excited to be here?
Definitely.
Very much.
Yeah.
We got a very grand welcoming into the city of Munich.
Alrighty.
And 4-cylinder headquarters of BMW. And there's no looking back since then. So
Great. Well, it's going to be a very interesting day, I can tell you, because what we're going to do now is we're actually going to go inside. First, get into the museum, try and understand what this brand is all about, where it comes from, and then, of course, we've got a few other treats. Let's get going.
The BMW Museum first opened its doors in 1972, but it was reopened after a major renovation in 2008, and we have featured it on both CNB and Freewheeling in the past. It is a special place, and it has an entire chronological history of BMW itself, starting right from the first airplane engines and the very first BMW Dixie cars. But this museum is more than that. The architecture and interior design, the various themed rooms like this design room, are all very special.
Dream come true for me, visiting various sections. Well, one was much better than the previous one, it was something like that. But still the best one was the first impression which I just saw into the 1930 ages, that section which showed up the 6-cylinder 20-liter World War II fighter aircraft engines. That was the one which just made my day. Well, it's a dream come true, thanks to CNB.
So here we see the history of the BMW's 3 Series and one predecessor, the 02 Series.
Now here's one exhibit that hasn't changed very much ever since I've first been to this museum, and I'm glad, because it really gets a lot of people's attention. And it's not just the colors, it's the fact that it is the evolution of the 3 Series, very, very popular model line globally, of course, as you know. And it's kind of apt for us today as well, because it is the 3 Series that has actually led us here today, hasn't it?
The museum also houses some rare gems and concept cars. This room was previously not open to the public, though CNB had been here before. Our winners were thrilled at seeing these beauties. Next, we saw the BMW bikes from the very earliest ones, and then also all the model badges over the years for the cars.
There's almost a eerie sort of silence in this particular room, because it's one of the few rooms here which doesn't actually have any cars or any vehicle exhibits, and instead you actually have these books which tell you information about the history of the brand. A little bit of a historic clip just plays out. Now, while we're here, I'm not going to lose track of what's happening back home. We had a very significant launch last week. That was the QUANTO from Mahindra and Mahindra. It is the mini Xylo, isn't it? Let's find out more about it.
No, it's not QUANTO, it's QUANTO, believe it or not. Mahindra's naming convention of cars ending with O is all fine, but like its full-size alter ego, the Xylo, the QUANTO too does not make much sense or sound good. Well, the idea is to impress with size and capacity despite the curtailed dimensions, hence the QUANTO. The car is essentially the Xylo up to the C-pillar, but Mahindra engineers then took a chainsaw to the rear.
Now I know that when Mahindra decided to do this, which is create a mini Xylo, The intention was to try and make the vehicle more attractive, right? Bring it below a certain price point by getting the excise duty benefit, making it sub 4 meter. When I heard about the project, it was exciting enough because it creates a sort of a new segment of the market, but I really didn't anticipate that Mahindra would simply just chop off the rear. So in terms of proportion, etc., nothing has been restyled. It's like the original Xylo, and so look at the greenhouse on this vehicle. It's really tall and it looks disproportionate. It doesn't look attractive. People may not like that very much. Now, even the way the wheels have been set in, overall, the vehicle just looks like parts of it have shrunk and something's not quite right there. And, you know, I understand, again, in terms of cost, the intention wasn't to try and increase the cost of development of this vehicle. It really was to just engineer it by creating that chop, which is why at the back too, elements like the new tail lamp cluster, like this spare wheel housing, all of that just ends up looking really forced.
But forced or not, Mahindra certainly believes size does not matter, and instead, price does. The 4 variants are priced very attractively indeed, especially when you think about the prices on the larger Xylo or even rivals like the Renault Duster, the Premier Rio, and yes, even the C-segment compacts. Onto the drive, yep, the Quanto looks a bit strange, but it drives better than expected. The shorter size and lower profile tires help give it a different character than the Xylo. Because ground clearance is slightly lower, the car handles better, though body roll does still creep in. Knocking off one cylinder and reducing displacement to 1.5 litres also gets the Quanto its excise duty cut, and we have to say the refinement of this 3-cylinder twin-scroll common rail engine was a pleasant surprise. 100 bhp and decent gear changes too. But while we were also happy with the surprisingly low noise levels, the engine's performance is okay but not exhilarating. The interiors of the cabin could also have been more attractive, and they're too Xylo-like. But that was expected. Ride height and seat position is great for a car this size, and you still sit tall. Boot space was yet another surprise, though those jump seats are best left folded up. The rear seat bench also felt a bit stiff, but on the whole, the big headroom and effective air conditioning will win many buyers over. Subsequent editions may carry over some features from the Xylo, like steering mounted controls or even the voice commands. And an export model is likely to feature the 2.2-litre M-Hawk engine from the Scorpio. The Quanto is not an SUV. It is, after all, a shortened MUV, isn't it? But it is good to see this space expanding, and with the price positioning, the Quanto will give some heat to the Maruti Ertiga too, besides the Renault Duster. We can only wonder how Ford is going to manage to make its upcoming EcoSport seem attractively priced from here on. Meanwhile, back at the BMW Museum, our guide Florian then took the winners into the world of BMW M, the more powerful BMWs of all time, including the M3, the M5 and the legendary M1.
A lifetime experience, because I knew the new M series, you know, the machineries, the equipment, the design and everything, but I was not aware about the history of it. How did it evolve and all? But this place, it had given me all the information, how the M series worked out, how did, it gave the momentum to the entire M series. The speed, which you get out of the M series, I used to feel it like, it's a kind of a sports car blended with the family car. Lovely, loved it.
As we made our way through the museum's remaining exhibits, Viraj, Arjun and Krunal got to see other milestone products like the Isetta, the 2002. After the museum, everyone stepped over to the BMW WELT, where we surprised the winners once more by having Dr. Andreas Schaaf, the outgoing president of BMW India, also join us for lunch.
I know now you're also on your way out from the India business.
Yes.
So you have, of course, an exciting sort of a new job that waits for you, but some commiserations about leaving India, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I think it has been an amazing amazing experience, and I think India also can't be compared to any other country, and I think this is something that you take with you back wherever you go. I think to experience a country like India is really a unique chance, and I'm very glad that I had this opportunity. And I had a fantastic time in India.
And it's been an interesting time as well, right? I mean, the market, when you first came in, was already sort of booming, and BMW was so strong. And then it's not been an easy market, but yet you've managed to sort of hold on to that position.
Yeah, I think it is a very difficult place. I think India has never been an easy market. Yeah? You have to understand the market. You have to get in there. It's a very fast-moving market. It's still a relatively immature market where you have to build up preferences also for your brand. But what I liked really in India is, I think from day one onwards, the BMW brand is perceived as so strong in India. People really, really love the brand. I think there's so much aspiration for the brand in India, and that gave us the pull right from the beginning. I think being the #1 player in India in the luxury car field is quite an achievement.
Now, the last time I was here at the WELT, this area did belong to motorcycles, but motorcycles from BMW Motorrad and not from Husqvarna, of course, a brand that BMW purchased in 2007. And so now this area has been designated to this brand. And the BMW bikes, well, they're going to be moving into a new section that's still under construction. So I guess next time I'm here, I'll get to see that. Time for a short break here on CMB. Stay with us, lots more coming up. Well, it's pretty much the entire range from BMW that's on display here. That's something you've seen before, of course, at the WELT. What is different, though, is that whole section back there, which is going to be dedicated to Mini, and the Rolls-Royce section as well, which is already ready and sort of open to the public as well. That's the new bit here at the WELT. It's going to be the BMW Group WELT and not just the BMW brand WELT anymore. And so I look forward to that section opening. Perhaps the next time I'm here, I'll get to see it. Here's an interesting car, finished off in what's a very unusual matte brown sort of a finish. They call it frozen bronze, and it is, of course, the all-new family member. It's the four-door coupe from the 6 Series range. This one, the 640i, I had the chance to drive the 640d a few days back. Nothing like any BMW in the past, and yet in keeping with what the Bavarian carmaker has been trying to do, experiment. After the 5 Series GT, we knew that unusual car lines won't be a surprise anymore at BMW. After all, its rivals have had some success with some quirky cars that straddle segments, haven't they? The weather didn't comply, but driving the new GRAN Coupe was still something I had been looking forward to. It's a lot colder than we thought it would be at this time of the year, and 4 degrees, definitely colder. Didn't bargain for this much rain, but I'm glad we had this lying in the boot. It's come in pretty handy, I can tell you, that umbrella has. Now, of course, our rain jinx continues. When we're on a shoot in Europe, it has to rain. So it's me and the 6 Series today that's been dealing with a lot of the rain. Now, in terms of styling, what this car really has to contend with in the marketplace are other designs like the CLS from Mercedes-Benz, the A7 from Audi. But what's nice is that it's not trying to ape those cars. It's not trying to say that, look, okay, we're late into the game in this segment, but let's try and give the customer exactly what the others are giving them. So in terms of styling, just the kind of attributes you see, the rear tail lamp treatment, the lines that you see in the metal, especially the concave surfacing, it's very typically BMW. What is nice, though, is the high-mounted stop lamp. Very classy and very stylishly done, and makes the car look different and distinct. It's at the side, in fact, that you can really tell it is not the regular 6 Series, because all other attributes pretty much tell you that it is that family of car. The extended wheelbase and the way, again, the metalwork has been done here, especially up here in the front door, give it a bit of its own characteristic, and the extension in that wheelbase doesn't look exaggerated or stretched. The car looks pretty sort of comfortable in its own skin, and I think that's quite an asset, because when I first heard that they're going to do a 4, that was my fear, that the car is going to start looking a little too stretched and perhaps a little disproportionate. Come around to the front, and they've done, of course, some very interesting work with the headlamp cluster. This one is the high-end optional full LED cluster, so that's a nice touch and something you expect at this end of the market. In the face, it's a typical 6 Series. Now, for me, the rest of the car is very stylish, especially, like I said, along the side, the way it contours into the back as well, looks really nice and stylish. It's in the front that, to me, the typical snout that juts out makes the car's overall sort of style quotient go down just a little bit. But nice big hood, a little bit of lines in the metal coming down to the BMW logo. All of that is typical territory. So it's good looking and it's kind of unique. This car is big and yet doesn't look oversized. It's almost like the new generation 6 Series was always meant to have been this size, and it's plush enough to hit Porsche Panamera territory, especially the car I had with a very sexy interior. We've finally broken through the rain, got some sun, and I can show you that the door on this car, in fact all 4 doors are rimless, so a little bit sexy, a little bit of a design statement. Speaking of design statements, the interior of this particular car that I have with me today has gone through the BMW individual treatment. So you can see that there's lots of optional equipment in terms of colors and just the materials. It's a gorgeous cabin. There's Alcantara on the pillars and on the roof, and of course lots of very fancy, very high-end leather. There's use of white and tan, nice white stitching, and also white wood surfaces. So it's all really sort of individualized and personalized, and it looks really gorgeous. The idea being to show you how much you can actually do with this new 6 Series Coupe as well. So individual seats as well, and so don't go by this as being standard equipment. Speaking of equipment that is standard though, there is a whole lot going on in terms of safety. There's cameras, there's sensors, there's adaptive cruise control, everything that you can pretty much expect. Another piece of optional equipment though is the Bang & Olufsen music system, because that's not something you get standard, you have to pay extra for it. Very fancy, a little speaker that pops up there, and of course the rest of the sound system is pretty fancy as well. And finally, to round things off, you of course have this big screen which you're used to in terms of the iDrive function, but it's gotten a little bit bigger and it's a little freestanding, so it looks different and once again pretty high-end. The car is offered in 4 variants: the 640i, 650i and 650i X-Drive or 4-wheel drive, and the diesel option is the 640D. I of course had the latter, as you know. The specs almost belie the effortless performance of the car, but it is the 8-speed Tiptronic gearbox that I particularly enjoyed. Now, unlike the competition, the CLS as well as the Audi A7, which feel really big, they feel like big cars in terms of the cabin space, that gets a little bit compromised in this car, especially when you're sitting in the back. You don't really think that you're sitting in a nice, big, luxurious sedan. But the plus side of that is that it drives more like a sports car by comparison, because those cars, well, they feel like you're driving a sedan. They don't really feel that sporty or that dynamic when you compare it to this one, because this feels like you're sitting a little bit lower, a little bit snugger to the road. The overall response, the handling, just the way the car can be thrown around, a lot more fun, and I think that would be the USP, not necessarily in markets like ours, but definitely here in Europe. And frankly, the premiumness one feels with this car will also hold it in very good stead. Yes, even in our market. Of course, everything from active steering to adaptive dampers mean that, like the current 5 Series and cars thereafter, you can drive this car in different modes, like sport or comfort. You can also opt for adaptive cruise control, head-up display, basically the works. It's a nice mature product with a smart sports tourer feel. It is sophisticated, smart and sporty. A rare combination, won't you say?
When our winners first arrived in Munich, they had the chance to also see the city that is home to BMW. Bavarian culture, food, people, and of course the beer is indeed very different from the rest of Germany.
It has to be the shade of a chestnut tree, otherwise it doesn't qualify as a beer garden here in Munich. Well, this is typically the sort of traditional cultural feel of Munich. Unfortunately, can't be sampling any of that beer right now because we are going to be driving on it a bit later. But anyhow, let's get going. There's more to see of the city, of course.
But of course, the bigger reason they were here was to visit the BMW headquarters, the 4-cylinder building the WELT and the museum.
The best part about the whole visit is the BMW WELT, where customers can come and pick deliveries of their own cars, which is absolutely fascinating. Take it out for a test drive on a specially prepared track with the BMW engineers to get their hands on the car before they actually take it out on the road, which to me is single most outstanding thing that can happen to a customer when he's buying a car like BMW.
Almost time to wrap things up here, but before that, the one thing that sort of brought us all here to this juncture is now joining us on the program. It is the new 3 Series, the F30 as it's been called, the 335i right here in Melbourne Red. And we're going to go for a little bit of a drive. I mean, we're here in Munich, headquarters of BMW. Got to ride one of these cars. Are you guys all set?
Oh yes!
All right, they are. Let's go.
For now, that's it. See you next week from the Paris Motor Show. Until then, please wear your seatbelts. Au revoir.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.